wish I could be part of that
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining me here with Get Into It with Taz and Chris and the brat Urbane. Because he just decided he has to be here today. Okay, I know that from time to time we talk about Little Miss Anna Delvey, and I know she has a new Netflix show coming on where she's hosting people for dinner in her Manhattan apartment. How she can afford a Manhattan apartment with no income, who knows? Okay, but there is an Anna Delvey 2.0. There is an Anna Delvey 2.0. I got the video. Y'all pay close attention. I didn't think that was possible, but here we go.
A new Anna Delvey-style scammer has just dropped and her web of lies is unraveling. This is Tina Young, a fraudster so committed she hired 300 actors to play her family and friends at her wedding ceremony, all to fool her new husband. The ruse behind the 2018 wedding was meticulously planned, right down to the TV extra who played her father giving her away at the altar. Nobody doubted him or the Rolls Royce parked outside because Tina was known for flaunting a life of luxury. But her displays of false wealth were actually her secret weapon to dupe loved ones into lending her thousands. Fortunately, Tina's new husband realised that her bougie lifestyle was just a front. Unfortunately, that realization came after she'd stolen 17 billion dong from him and his family. One failed marriage was not enough to stop her, and 3 years later, Tina got hitched again. This time, she vanished just weeks after the wedding, taking with her 100 million dong. But marriage wasn't the only way she lined her pockets. One of the 14 people filing a police report against the fake heiress was scammed out of 1.5 billion dong, roughly $64,000. Tina fabricated a meeting with her father, who was a senior intelligence official, and when this meeting inevitably fell through, the victim ended up footing the bill for the event hire. There's talks of filmmakers taking the Vietnamese Anna Delvey to the big screen. And as for Tina, the last we've heard is her social media post in September where she said she was embarking on a journey to find her true identity again. And then she was released on bail the next month. Anyone else hearing wedding bells?
Wow. Well, let's hope there's not a Elizabeth Holmes 2.0. Wow. I think she's trying to get on Netflix.
To hire 300 people to pretend to be your family? 300? I don't even know 300 of my own family members. 300?
Yeah. Well, when you go big, you go big.
And then she hired an extra, like a working actor, to play her father. Nobody caught on at the. Nobody looked like he looks
like. Isn't that the mailman? No.
But at least she married him. Now, I don't know the laws. I don't know the marital laws in Vietnam. I don't. But here in the good old US of A, if you're married and you run off with the money, that's not theft. Like, y'all,
not the Commonwealth.
But she, like, what is she telling me? Like, she's getting wealthy men. And have you noticed that both her and Anna look very basic? Like, how are they wooing these people?
Yeah. I thought about that when I saw Anna, and I was like, okay, she's not extra. She's just Anna.
Yeah, and then I'm like, when I was looking, like Anna, remember, I went through her Instagram, and I'm like, okay, she must have found some really great replica designer outfits and stuff. My wardrobe is better than hers. And my wardrobe is mostly graphic tees and leggings.
Yeah, and the tees are awesome.
Yes, they are. I have a tee to wear next week. I was going to wear it this week, but I accidentally knocked it behind the couch. So I have to wait for somebody to come and help me move this couch so I can get it from behind.
Well, the bride over there is moving everything else, but but
Well,
the
see,
couch.
that's why I put it up behind the couch because I was trying to clean up today, and then I was like, "Oh, I'll just change right before the show."
And where to go? Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh crap, it's behind the couch." I was like, "Great,"
Yeah.
but
We can get a tiny human back there.
probably,
Just lower one of the tiny humans down.
yeah, Tiny Moon probably do it. She gets in. Okay, before we get into some snippets, some pseudo controversies from the Super Bowl, I had to throw our boy Colin Kaepernick in here, especially since he has this new TV deal and everything. So let's delve into that. Y'all get comfy. This is a little bit of a long one, but if you're not new here, you know how we do. We'll see you in 2 and 2. Get off of me.
This video is being made for educational purposes. Having said that, trigger warning in this one. Have y'all seen what's been going on with Colin Kaepernick recently? So there's a new show that's going to be coming out on February 3rd called Killing County, and Colin Kaepernick's media company is a part of the production. You know, I ain't never said this before. Colin Kaepernick is a handsome man. The show essentially explores deadly policing, and let's just say that the far right is not happy about this. This tweet came across my timeline with a video clip from Newsmax in which the host, Jen Pelican, is not happy with Colin Kaepernick. Let's go ahead and hear what she had to say, because I'm sure it was very insightful.
Protester and hero to the radical woke mob, Colin Kaepernick, he's back in the spotlight, now executive producing a new anti-cop docuseries, and it's called Killing County. Guess he just doesn't feel enough people hate America yet.
Oh, shut up.
Here's a peek at how slanted this three-part series is.
My son died in a shootout.
F this. I'm calling the cops on the cops.
Walk the streets, bikers.
The deadliest law enforcement in the country per capita.
Highest rate of officer-involved deaths anywhere in the country.
This is where the story takes a very bizarre turn.
And as you start unraveling the layers, you start to see that there's more than just a couple bad officers.
Wipe that look off your face. Colin Kaepernick is a protester and hero to the radical woke mob. Apparently only the woke mob care about police brutality. Apparently only the woke mob care about people of color. You know what? I'm not even gonna be mad. She's saying the quiet part out loud, and I appreciate that. But, unfortunately, this isn't the only clip I want to show you guys. This tweet also came across my timeline, and, well, as you can see by this dude down here in the corner, whatever he has to say, I am sure is going to be wonderful. Let's see what the beach bum had to say, huh?
Well, let me start with you. The synopsis for this Hulu series raises this question. It reads as follows. Who do you turn to when the ones who are supposed to serve and protect you are the ones you can't trust? Do you think there's a motive here, a message being pushed?
Yeah, of course. The message is we hate America. We hate everything this country stands on. We hate law and order, and we want people to get away with crime.
No lies detected. That was all 100% facts. I don't understand these people. I don't want this video to be too long, and I don't want to nerd out on you guys too hard because, as I've said before, I love football. I could go on and on and on about it, but I just want to say this. Colin Kaepernick protested peacefully against police brutality, and in doing so, lost his career. Now, we could get into what Colin Kaepernick really was as a player, right? Really dynamic dual threat, but not the most accurate quarterback in the league. You know, all that stuff, right? If he was as accurate as guys like Brady and Mahomes and Rodgers, and he could actually sling the football like them, more than likely he would still have a career. That may very well be true. But in a league where people like Mitch Trubisky keep getting jobs, I feel like Colin Kaepernick absolutely could have gotten a job. I'm not saying he had to be a starter somewhere, but he could have been a backup, and don't believe the frickin' rumors that he didn't want to be a backup. I mean, of course, he probably didn't want to be one, but he would have taken a job if offered. It's very sad what happened to him, and it's extremely disappointing to see news outlets continue to portray him as, I don't know, some left-leaning radical. He's anti-police violence and pro-accountability. Is that woke? Because if that's considered woke, I feel like woke's lost some of its flavor. I feel like any good person would be anti-police violence, but then we have news outlets like Newsmax come out and say you hate America if you call it out. It's really disappointing to continue to see broadcast media label Kaepernick as something he's not. Colin Kaepernick is a great man who literally sacrificed his career in the name of social justice. What is more American than that? You want to talk about a real American hero, someone who actually stood for everything that America claims to stand for? It's Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, that was good. I didn't know about the release of that.
Well, I love how the beach bum came on and hit all of the dog whistles, the law and order. That it's amazing that the right can criticize the country, call everybody else the woke mob, but when we criticize the country because we want the country to get better, we hate the country.
Right. They're the hate mob. Yeah, I love how they always label things that actually people should be, but it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing to want to look at law enforcement. It's a bad thing to want, but let it happen to somebody they know. They walking around praising guns over life. Like I said, they want to be pro-life when they're pro-birth because they don't like life, people alive. Yeah, why would they like a peaceful protester? They're all about storming the Capitol. Yeah, and they, so it's no surprise. A little surprised it wasn't on Truth Social, unless the servers went down. Yeah. I mean, even Sir Brat over there knows better, even though he is not a peaceful protester.
He's not peaceful at all. What are you eating, and why do I have to be a part of this? But now they're upset with peaceful protesting, but I'm going to show you all something, a little clip that took place right during Super Bowl weekend.
Sir Brat, get out of there.
Get down. Everybody knows that you exist. But take a look at this.
So this is a bunch of white Eagles fans in Philadelphia flipping a car, causing a riot before the Super Bowl. Can you imagine for a second black or brown people doing something like this? The amount of privilege is staggering. This is bananas.
But that's just boys will be boys.
Exactly. Oh, but they just love football. Yeah, okay. Let that happen in another neighborhood. It's a riot. They don't know how to act. Yeah. Just comply.
Yep.
If you just comply, you don't get shot. No.
Exactly.
No, I was reaching for gum and I got shot.
But since we've already opened that Super Bowl door, so much happened during the Super Bowl. So much happened, and the conservatives have lost their mind. But let's start with the whole rebranding of Jesus during a commercial break. Here we go.
Jesus does not need $100 million rebrand. His followers do. Listen, the Super Bowl ad wasn't wrong in saying Jesus loved the people we hate. His followers do not. They'll wear a cross while gleefully spreading hate. They'll pray very, very publicly, but when refugees need
a safe place to call home,
they kick them to the curb. And yeah, it's true. Jesus was
a rebel, took to the streets and challenged authority.
But this Christian wanted to shoot protesters. And if at this point you're offended thinking, but that's them, not me. Spoiler, you're probably the one that needs to hear this the most. Christian, the He Gets Us campaign is offering free materials for your church and is funded by the same group that promotes the hate Jesus stood against. Jesus was never the problem. It's the people who are Christian in their bio and cruel in their actions that are bad for the brand.
Now, keep in mind with all of the commercials that they had out to rebrand Jesus, partially funded by the owner of Hobby Lobby, we know about him, they spent $100 million. We've watched several mega churches refuse to house people during natural disasters, not feeding people, not helping people out with bills during this horrific financial times. But they said, you know what? Instead of showing people we're good people, we'll just rebrand Jesus. We will rebrand Jesus to make him everything that we complain about the woke mob being every day.
Yeah, because we just hated when Sam Smith was on the Grammys.
Because I saw the commercials and I sat here chuckling during the Super Bowl, partially because I was heavily medicated. Another part was because it was hilarious because I'm sitting here, I'm like, conservatives complain about us protesting, about us feeding the homeless, about us caring about one another. And this is how they're branding Jesus to be and saying, embrace us, embrace him. He gets us, but you don't. Like the hypocrisy, you're branding your Lord and Savior, your Sky Daddy, as the people that you complain about and tell everybody are wrong every day.
We can rebrand grapes that are in vineyards. It'd be special.
Yeah,
But it's wow. I mean,
but they went from that to
it's,
Rihanna is demonic.
Yeah, they're worried about things that are like, oh my God, what are you going to do to our kids? Yeah, you got your kids on Christmas cards holding rifles.
That part.
What is Sam Smith really for one song going to do to your child?
But they'll take their kids to Twin Peaks or Hooters and be perfectly fine with it. They'll let them watch South Park, Family Guy, American Dad, be completely fine with it.
Family Day at the Range.
And I can't think of the state right now. It's missing me. Sorry, y'all. Still got medicine brain. But there's a state that's pushing for, well, it's now legal for minors to open carry firearms. Minors. Let that sink in. Minors can walk around with firearms.
We would have said Florida. However, it's probably from, I'm just going to throw it out there, probably somewhere in the Midwest.
I want to say it's Wisconsin, but I'm not sure. Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking from what's her name state that allowed all the bikers in during COVID. Just picture that. Yeah, let's just have. But then again, are we going to specify who we want to have open carry? Because there's colored people out there who would be open carry too.
Well, in Alaska, you can be as young as 16. Louisiana, 17. Oh, okay. Here it is. Texas, Wyoming, Ohio, of course, New Hampshire, Montana, and Maine have no age restrictions when it comes to who can possess a handgun or long gun.
Yeah. Right. It's the Rittenhouse rule.
It's crazy. But oh, we got more Super Bowl talk because
Woo! Go Bengals! Oh.
They lost their mind. We got closer than your team. That
I wasn't making fun of the Bengals. I like Joe. Joe Cool.
Joe.
He'll be back.
Yes, he will. He will.
And pretty soon he's going to get paid. Otherwise, what would they do? What would they do if they didn't pay Joe? It's like they couldn't let him walk.
No, they better not let him walk. We will.
Or Chase.
We will riot the training facility.
They'll be like, we are not going back to the Dalton days.
No, we are not. No, we are. Oh. And please don't take us back to the Carter days. Please don't take us back to the. Oh,
the Marvin, you came to save us and you hung around for 2 decades.
Woo! The nightmares, the terrors. All right, let's get into this next Super Bowl video. We'll see y'all in 2 and 2. Y'all know how we do.
For those of you who were on Twitter during the Super Bowl, did you happen to see all the tweets from conservatives regarding Rihanna's halftime show? And yeah, I said Rihanna. Apparently, I have been pronouncing her name wrong for the last 20 years. It's kind of like my man Tyrod right here. His name looks like it's pronounced Tyrod. It's actually Tyrod. Like T-U-H... Rod. I, and like everybody else, have been referring to this man as Tyrod since he entered the league, and then one day a teammate of his came out and was like, oh yeah, by the way, his name is pronounced Tyrod, he's just too nice to correct anybody. Same shit with Rihanna, so from now on, I will call her Rihanna. By the way, did y'all know that Rihanna's halftime show had more viewers than the Super Bowl? Bosh it. Anyways, I want to show y'all some of these tweets. One of the first tweets I saw was from an individual named Stu Peters, who I have talked about on my second page once upon a time, and he tweeted this out regarding Rihanna's devil suit, and the fact that she was apparently rocking a pentagram. But come to find out, surprise, surprise, it was a belt buckle. A completely normal belt buckle. Ronnie Jackson, who I recently talked about on my second page as well, tweeted this out saying that Ted Nugent would have been a much better halftime performer, as if, with all due disrespect, Ted Nugent couldn't lick the bottom of Rihanna's boots, let alone outperform her on any stage. Y'all have probably heard about Nick Adams. He is just the ultimate troll on Twitter. Like, he is conservative, but he also tweets out nonsense for the simple fact that he knows it's gonna get clicks. But he tweeted this out: something about Rihanna's performance feels satanic. I could be wrong, I am just speaking my mind. There was this one from Bridget Gabriel. I've never seen Bridget spelled like that before, but she tweeted out, Rihanna is not setting a good example for the young girls of America. Is it too much to ask for a halftime performance appropriate for children? I'm curious as to what they deem appropriate for children. Rihanna was literally completely covered up. She didn't twerk, she showed no skin. I mean, I guess I don't understand what was inappropriate about it. Obviously, I recently talked about that preacher that died for a short period, went to hell, all they played was Rihanna, and especially her song Umbrella, but I mean, come on. Feel free to pause it here if you want to read this, but I refuse to take anybody seriously who tweets out nonsense like this. I guess Colin Kaepernick losing his job wasn't punishment enough. Apparently she wanted Colin Kaepernick to, I don't know, get fined, go to prison. Talk about being a snowflake. Imagine getting offended because somebody kneeled during the anthem. I don't know how many of y'all saw the Super Bowl or how many of you just tuned in to see Rihanna's performance or not, but her performance was awesome. I don't think it was as good as last year's, but granted, last year's had like 6 people perform, and it was rap. And, you know, I'm always gonna prefer rap over like anything else. But this Rihanna disrespect needs to stop! And anybody who believes that Ted Nugent would have performed better than Rihanna, I'm sorry, but respectfully, get therapy.
Know how a fully clothed woman with fully clothed dancers is not appropriate for everyone.
Well, what gets me is, okay, if you're looking at her performance, Sam Smith's performance, they both had red on. Normally they like the color red because I remember a sea of red hats spewing hate, but that wasn't evil.
Let's not forget, the GOP mascot is a big red elephant.
But it's when certain people wear red, it's evil all of a sudden. Yeah, there's something there.
I'm just like, wow, okay, like
really, like it's a performance. These are performances. They happen to be by people that you don't back anything they stand for, but it's a performance.
yeah, because they weren't upset when J-Lo gave us a striptease basically on stage when she performed.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They were.
So.
But you have a pregnant woman dressed head to toe,
Mm-hmm.
ends the performance in a replica of an iconic coat from a fashion icon who passed away last year in that Titanic.
Yeah. Remember last year's halftime show? Once again, they hated it. Wonder why? It's not their genre. So anything that is not somebody that I don't like that performance. How do you feel about all those other people for years that said, you know what? I don't really listen to, the Rolling Stones, or I don't really listen to Aerosmith. But you all were saying, how great it was. It's not your genre. Okay, go somewhere during halftime. Bye-bye.
Well, it's just like when Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever came out. Rihanna had a title track on there.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was like, oh, I can't stand it. I can't stand it. Darius Rucker has a brand new album dropping. It's named after that song. The song hasn't even been out that long, and he's already remade it. Before we got on the air, so many people, oh my God, I've been waiting for this. Such a beautiful song. It's so wonderful.
Really?
But y'all keep begging Rihanna to make more music. Mm-hmm. This one ain't messing with y'all. This right here, she ain't messing with y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, but wait, there's more. We had to throw some Lauren Boebert in here because she's stupid.
Boebert is half Gogurt.
Yeah, there's gonna be 2 videos back to back. Who y'all buckle up for this one because she gives your brain cells a run for their money.
Her brain is a Gogurt.
It is. Woo, it is mush. Let's take a look.
Well, hey there, y'all. So in today's adult hissy fit news, if y'all don't know who this is, let me introduce you to the beautiful, talented, and amazing Cheryl Lee Ralph. She is currently playing a teacher on Abbott Elementary, a personal favorite show of my 13-year-old and I. Yesterday, before the Super Bowl, she was invited to sing what many people refer to as the Black National Anthem. This is a song called Lift Every Voice and Sing. Though the song has been performed for the past 2 years at the Super Bowl, this is the first time it was actually performed on the field. And it was also the anniversary where it was first publicly performed 123 years ago on February 12th, 1900. However, because Black people are not allowed to experience any kind of pride or pleasure in their cultural heritage in front of everyone else in the country without racist pushback, these Washington, D.C. howler monkeys took to Twitter and went off because they couldn't stand the fact that a Black woman was able to get up and sing a song that is referred to as the Black National Anthem. In a segment I like to call Just Boobert Things, she got on Twitter and said, America only has one national anthem. Why is the NFL trying to divide us by playing multiple? Do football, not wokeness. Woke is the Republican buzzword that they use to be racist without actually saying racist things. Although while they try to even hide it at this point behind a phrase like woke or wokeness is beyond me, they've already blatantly said exactly who they are. So just say it, boo. And then the alpha howler monkey says, Chris Stapleton just sang the most beautiful national anthem at the Super Bowl, but we could have done without the rest of the wokeness. See, there we go with that wokeness again. That's their new buzzword. And then, of course, there was Carrie Lake, the failed governor candidate from Arizona, who refused to stand for the Black National Anthem. She was not having it. In 2022, a proposal to make Lift Every Voice and Sing the U.S. national hymn as a parallel to the anthem was rejected by both Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. I am not a racist, she said on his podcast, but she said the move would erode the meaning and significance of our national anthem. Let's just be real honest here, y'all. Anytime a black person wants to take center stage in anything, racists are gonna racist.
At the Super Bowl because we only have one national anthem.
That's right, America only has one national anthem. It's a British drinking song that we changed the lyrics to, which is so much better than the one we used before that, the actual British national anthem that we changed the lyrics to.
And a little fun fact, Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Black National Anthem, predates the United States National Anthem. And the little dig saying that Chris Stapleton delivered such beautiful national anthem. He played the blues, which was originated by Black people. And Chris Stapleton is very outspoken for the rights of marginalized people, specifically Black people. Like, just...
Right. He's they don't understand who he is. They just see the beard and everything and assume, hey, he's one of us. That's when they assume a lot about people in this country that don't all support the circus that's on the right. Yeah, he did a great job. I think a lot of people applauded that. Cheryl Lee Ralph, sing her tail off.
And for the old school Cheryl Lee Ralph fans, if you remember Sister Act 2, when Lauryn Hill played her daughter, I just got to say this. Singing don't pay the bills. Singing don't put no food on the table. I guess it does.
What are they doing watching football anyways? Didn't they walk away from that? It's like they did a lot of others. They walked away from NASCAR because they tried to be diversive.
Yeah, they were right back at NASCAR. They were
so they can't resist trolling because that's what they do. They hate.
They're supposed to be boycotting everything: Starbucks, Target, Carhartt, Nike, NFL.
They are the hate mob. The hate mob, the racist mob, whatever you want to add to it. They are definitely the opposite of woke.
Oh, they're in a coma. And they're happy
because they love making the word woke, which they just overuse to the point of nausea, make it such a satanic word or something. I mean, it's just nuts.
It's their new dog whistle.
They always have to have a label, a name, or something. That's what bullies do. Bullies love calling people names and this and that. So yeah.
That's their new dog whistle. All right. Before we continue the conversation, we do have to get into an ad. You know.
Is it merch time?
So it's merch time. We'll see you after this. And right after the merch, we will have another Black History factoid. And then we'll get back into the Super Bowl conversation. See y'all again.
Black people stand up, feel good. Be proud of yourself as you should. And if you darker than the brown paper bag, wave your fists in the air, time to make these haters mad. They treat us like we came from the sewer, and everything we do, they try to outdo us. We made the traffic light, they write tickets. I ain't got to tell them, they already know where to stick it. We made the subway, they got scepter. Now everybody eating off of that except us. One thing we known for is our bravery, and Paul Kufi was an entrepreneur during slavery. You wonder why we like t-shirts that's white? Maybe because we used to pick cotton in another life. For Granville Woods and Maggie Lena Walker, put your lighters in the air now and spark up. One of the things that they never made clear, why Black History Month is shortest one of the year. Just one of the things that make me think.
Hey, good morning. Everything's racist. Even these.
Did you know that no trespassing signs like these are directly linked to slavery in the US? This professor spent over a decade uncovering the awful truth behind these signs. Apparently, it goes back to the 1600s and the arrival of British colonizers in America.
England has very strict trespass laws. The moment you cross into someone else's land, it's a serious crime. If you poach on someone else's land, one of the penalties was transportation to the American colonies. But once the settlers got to North America, all of English law gets thrown out, and they develop a distinctly new set of laws.
And one of the key elements is this: trespassing is not a crime.
Under slavery, on most plantations, a large share of the food that enslaved people had eaten was stuff they produced themselves, because those white landowners would provide them with cornmeal and with fatback, which is like bacon but less meat and more fat. No one could live just on that. And so everything else, all the vegetables, all the eggs, all the meat except for fatback, all of that was either fished, hunted, grown, or foraged.
But all of that changed after the Civil War in 1865, when slavery was abolished.
By the end of the Civil War, all formerly enslaved people are now free. And then there's new elections, but at that point, only white people can vote. And so these all-white electorates vote for all-white legislatures. And some of the first laws they make are laws criminalizing trespass. And it happens across the South, making it more difficult to feed yourself by limiting hunting, by limiting fishing, by prohibiting foraging. After slavery, you could pretty much feed yourself without working for your former slave owner. And so there's this asymmetry in which these white landowners desperately need black workers. But black people don't need these white landowners because they can feed themselves. Part of the reason I know they were doing this against black people is they said, we are doing this specifically to make them work for us. It will confine them more.
Essentially, these white landowners were trying to continue as many of the conditions of slavery as possible after it actually ended. But their attempts went even further than no trespassing laws.
Mississippi and South Carolina tried to institute laws, for example, called the Black Codes, where if a black person worked for a white person, they were required to call them master, and they would need written permission to leave their workplace. Not having a job was a crime, whether you needed a job or not.
And then there were the fines that came with these crimes. Fines so high that few people could actually afford them. So to pay them off, black Americans were basically pushed into forced labor.
They could sell you to a white employer for the number of months it would take for you to repay the fine. So you would have an auction on the courthouse steps that was indistinguishable from an auction of a slave that had happened 5 or 10 years before. If you see a no trespassing sign, if you're wondering why it's a crime to go on someone's land, a big part of why is an effort by white landowners to disadvantage black workers right after the Civil War.
And I will not be taught in Florida.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not.
You get right to the border of Florida, no trespassing.
Yeah. Former history teacher Ron DeSantis doesn't want any of that taught.
Well, he's close. The state is almost, if you trim off the top, he can make it a whole island. So I don't know what that is, but yeah, avoid Florida.
Yes, avoid it at all costs. Just leave Trump and DeSantis down there together so that they can just fight it out.
Your education level will not be enhanced down there.
We need to bring back Celebrity Fight Club and let Trump and DeSantis just battle it out in the ring.
Yeah. Yeah, do it on a golf course so that just in case one of them happens to accidentally pass away. There's a burial site. There's a burial site on the property.
And speaking of people not being able to handle their... If you all watched the Super Bowl, then you probably saw the Tubi commercial that played a prank on everyone.
Sure did.
I thought it was cute. Looks like a lot of people didn't. Let's take a look.
Hey! What are you doing? Who's on the remote? Get up, everybody, get up! Prove everybody to be... Guess what? Sylvia will never have another person ever. Yeah, you want fault. What's in my room? Did you guys have a show? Wait, that's not us. That was a commercial.
These teams, they really. Yo, who's touching it? Who got the remote?
Oh, man.
Oh,
Somebody
my goodness.
No? Somebody.
Let's take a journey through this nation. No. And join us. Not the fellow behind.
Fire recently.
The whole time. Oh my God.
Oh my God. What the heck? Yo. What is this?
Oh my God.
We just got a 911 upstairs.
What if it is a commercial?
I want to talk about the Tubi commercial because all of the reactions to it that I've been seeing online, I think highlight a very important issue with our society and culture surrounding sports in general. Yes, it was a very funny prank, actually a very good marketing technique. Some of the reactions were also very scary. I mean, something very simple like calling your mother-in-law a bitch, yelling at every single person in the room. And this video, so I just want to remind people that during huge sporting moments, domestic violence instances are more likely to occur at a higher rate than other days in the year, with unexpected or upset losses correlated with a 10% increase in the rate of domestic violence, a 26% increase in reports of domestic abuse when the national team won or drew, and a 38% increase when the team lost. And a 2017 study found calls to a domestic violence hotline consistently increased by over 15% when a local football team played. So yes, it was a very funny commercial, but I think it also highlighted the inherent violence that is rooted in our culture.
Darn it. Not when the Bengals lost. Darn
it. No, because women that are Bengals fans, we hit back. We hit back. And generally it's our name on everything. So ain't nobody about to try to lay hands on us.
Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah. But yeah, I did want to point this out because a lot of people don't realize how much toxic masculinity is still available and how many cities and states still have on the books where it is technically legal to lay hands on your partner if your partner is a woman. Some of them, you got to drag her all the way down to the courthouse steps. I kid you all not. Some of them, they'll just make y'all go to counseling and you're going to get stuck in the same house for a year or two. And there's nothing that woman can do. The Tubi commercial, very funny, very great. I think it would have been I know the Super Bowl is like the biggest time for marketing, but I think it would have been better during the Grammys. Not so much during a sporting event, because let's not forget, before the Super Bowl started, there were grown men out in the streets of Philadelphia flipping cars.
Mm-hmm.
And because for so long, treating a wife poorly was like a badge of honor. If you look at black and white sitcoms,
mm-hmm.
that was the major punchline, insinuating abuse. The famous line, right in the crisser. Like, we joke about it, but
and I can see how in this case, because of the way that it was done, it fooled people. This is a case where it went beyond your spouse or partner because people had turned to their kids, because kids are known for touching remotes and playing around. Kids got involved in this so-called, this commercial. So it became very dangerous when, anxiety's high, tensions are high. It's a game day. It's a big game. You're involved in the household in this. And either way that goes, it's like, okay, we understand the marketing, but like you said, there could have been a better place for it. But obviously, if you're going for the moon, you're going for the Super Bowl ads. But you're walking a fine line when it comes to households that it's going into. Because not everybody, you know, is of right mind. Not everybody is sober. So yeah, it was a little touchy there. Hearing about the, you know, there was a lot of people that were getting online and like, oh my God, it got me, and oh, you know, I was looking at my kids like were they holding the remote, or you know, but there are households where I'm sure people were just flat out drunk or whatever, and this could have been a very bad turnout.
And those are just the things that were shared. And I've seen some things that were shared either in tweets, written posts, or even in videos where I'm like, this is what they have no shame to share it in public. So imagine the things that are not being shared in public. Because just like in the last video, it was tweeted out that a grown man called his mother-in-law a bitch over the commercial.
Yeah.
And it's like, y'all, it's a game. We all have our favorite teams. We all get excited for certain stuff, but it's still a game that none of us have a stake in the team. We're not co-owners of these teams. Our bank account is not going to go up or down when the game is over.
Yeah. Unless you're a heavy gambler.
Yeah, and I saw one guy who I hope it was his house, because he completely destroyed the mount and the TV, and it looked like there was some damage to the wall. Ain't no way. And some people were like, well, it's a skit, it's a prank. That is an expensive skit. That is an expensive prank.
Yeah, that's someone that needs anger management. Like,
because I'm sorry that there's no amount of clicks, likes, views, or following that's going to cause me to damage things that I've paid for or somebody else paid for, especially not in this economy.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and if the four-legged buddy over there did it, yeah,
he'd be homeless.
Yeah.
He'd be on the road again.
He'd be like, I need a new owner again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, quick update. You all remember the heathenist individual that went into a predominantly Black grocery store and killed a number of people. He was sentenced. He has been sentenced to life with absolutely no chance, no possibility of parole. Now, you know, the GOP generally likes to send thoughts and prayers. Today, I can say that I'm proud of the Democratic Party, and I'm going to show you why. Don't drink anything. Don't drink anything right now while you watch this, because you're going to be shocked.
Fucking finally. Thank you, Democrats, for finally officially saying, fuck your thoughts and prayers. The Democratic Majority Whip in the Michigan House of Representatives issued an official statement, and that started with, fuck your thoughts and prayers. That's it. That's the TikTok. Because fuck your thoughts and prayers.
Yes.
It is so about time. They don't want to do anything about gun control. They don't want to do anything to protect children or citizens just trying to live their daily life. They don't want police reform. They always thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. Fuck your thoughts and prayers. And for those of y'all that go, but Taz, you're being blasphemous. You're not a good Christian. First of all, I never claimed to be a Christian. Second of all, here's something that all of you pseudo-Christians out there and you fake evangelists keep forgetting. Faith without works is dead. So sitting there claiming that you're so faithful and just giving people lip service, your faith is dead. Your faith is null and void. Jesus doesn't even hear you, okay? The Holy Trinity is doing like this to you. You have to put your faith to work. That means you need to hit the ground running and make changes. Stop sitting there going, oh, I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray. Stop. When somebody is hungry, a prayer does not fill their bellies. when somebody's child is gunned down, going to get them bread and milk, that does not resurrect them. They are not Lazarus because of your thoughts and prayers. And most of y'all thoughts are horrific. And most of y'all, I don't want y'all praying for me, let alone anybody else. Because I done seen a lot of y'all pastors getting arrested this past month.
There's a call 700 Club watchers.
There's so many pastors, clerks, deacons, secretaries of the church getting arrested, grooming kids, marrying the kids that they done groomed, all sorts of stuff. And y'all see that thoughts and keep your nasty, dirty, unwashed thoughts to yourself, and keep your nasty, disgusting prayers to yourself.
There's some sinning in the pews.
Like, y'all thought that the Duggar family was so holier than thou.
Yeah.
Just because she decided not to use birth control and convinced all of y'all plus a network to pay for all them 2,000 kids does not mean that they was holy.
The same ones that are praying alongside of Bobert.
Yeah, see, these people, their thoughts, and they think and pray, not P-R-A-Y, they P-R-E-Y.
They're praying their guns will be saved. That someday somebody from the woke mob won't knock on my door to come take my guns.
And, you know, I heard somebody say that there's no such thing as amendments while talking about the Second Amendment and claiming that the Second Amendment was the protection of a natural right. Now, I don't know what's natural about a gun, but okay. But speaking of the woke mob, I'm not even going to preface this. Conservative media they've always been stupid, but y'all just, I think this is the dumbest question asked in reference to a president since the whole Dijon mustard gate. But take a look. Y'all tell me what you think.
Is President Biden woke?
So let me tell you what the president cares about and what's important to this president. The president doesn't concern himself about what Republicans are trying to do in creating political stunts, in making an issue out of the things that they feel benefits them politically, not the American people, not what matters to the American people, but what benefits them politically for their own ability to move forward.
Woke.
Yes,
Biden woke up.
Asked if President Biden was woke.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna ask for Puppers if he's woke.
Anthony's ride for work pulled up and he went crazy. But if you look up the current definition of woke, and several people have had to prove what woke was, including Ron DeSantis in a court of law, it's understanding the need for inclusion. That's the Cliff Notes version. So they're using woke as a bad term. Wouldn't you want the president of the United States, the commander-in-chief, to be inclusionary?
Knowing how diverse we are. Remember, we're that one country in the world that probably has close to almost every country at least represented here. I mean, it's pretty diverse. So when you have someone that's all about the wall, that doesn't talk about inclusion. It talks about we're just going to label everyone else, you know, a thug or a drug dealer. So, yeah, they've definitely worked that word, you know, especially on that entertainment channel called, you know, Foxy.
And what really gets me is that these are the same people that will say that there's no race problem, that we're all the same. Let's stop talking about racism. Let's just all be equal. And then when somebody goes, okay, this is how we can all be equal and equitable. Oh, no, that's the woke mob. That's the woke. No, that's bad. No.
They changed the name of my syrup. They changed the name of my box of rice. It's no longer, it's now just, neighbor Benz, and we got a different name. They're changing the names of the products I was always used to, and that does what to your life? Did that syrup pay your bills? Did that syrup, enlighten anything for you? Companies, they do what they want to do. The president Biden's not sitting over there like, you need to change your syrup, you need to change your rice. Everybody, we need to. If people need to get their act together and decide, you know what, enough's enough. We've been at this long enough. People take things for granted as the name of your products, and they look at it like, well, we didn't think it was broken. Why fix something that we don't think was broken? It wasn't broken for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it comes down to. That's when it comes down to that whole pie, when you're thought, well, when we're divvying up the slices of pie to everybody, I always made sure I got the biggest slice. And now you're telling me all slices should be equal. Well, that doesn't make me feel very special anymore. I wanted the biggest slice of pie. What's the difference? You're getting pie. You've always got pie. Your slice, a little smaller, you still get a slice. Wouldn't you want everyone else to enjoy the pie like you do? That's what it comes down to, is they think they're always giving up something when they're really not. Well, if we have to be more diverse, that means we're sacrificing something that was ours. It was never yours. This country was never yours. The country was stolen. Go look on the reservations. There's your natives. What wasn't stolen, you just don't want to share. You loved having the biggest slice of pie or the biggest benefits. There's many people now that want everyone to be able to enjoy things, everyone to be treated without being known as, well, this applies to you, it doesn't apply to them. People want an even playing field. Nobody's losing anything.
Mm-mm.
It's called about an even playing field where everyone can enjoy the same things you've always had. But it's no longer about who you are. It's about whether you're doing right or wrong. That's what it comes down to. But somehow woke is turned into a satanic word when it should have always been about our country is getting more and more diverse over the generations. People are moving here because we have opportunities. We have colleges that teach courses that some countries, they only get to study whether you want to be a doctor or a lawyer. It's very limited. Mm-hmm. Here they can open up their horizons. And you don't want to not only not let them in, they have an accent, they don't speak. You don't want to give them time to learn the language. And then you also, on top of that, you're not learning English fast enough. But we also don't want you to have, more pie than you should. We still want to control how much slice of pie you have. Because, if everyone was woke, then we would no longer be in control of everything. Everybody would have an open voice, where we would have a room full of people sitting around a boardroom that actually look like America.
Yes.
So you want to make woke an evil word. Woke is what we always should have been. It's just that the Native Americans are sitting on the reservation saying, yeah, we're all for that. We never got it. Now we got to deal with, suicides and, alcohol abuse and drug abuse on our reservations. Yeah, there's a lot that history can tell, but we don't want to tell that. So, yeah, there's a lot behind things, and every country has good and bad history. But whoever wants diet history, who wants watered down history? If I want to learn how something was, I want to learn how something was. You know, don't tell me, well, at the end of the day they shook hands. How did they get to that point? I want to know everything, and people should have the right to learn. People have the right to know. People have the right to know, because I say knowledge equals growth. When you limit knowledge, you're limiting how someone can grow or grow in a certain way. You're catering, you're determining how somebody grows through the way you're teaching them, because that's all they know. You're taking away books, or you're editing books. And we saw that they tried to do that in Germany by having book burning.
Mm-hmm.
And then they replaced those books with their homemade books. These are the books we actually want you to read. We saw what that did. We've been down that road before. So yeah, I mean, it's for those that think that they don't have a mind of their own, and yes, there's a lot. We have some very colorful TikTok videos of people that are at Trump rallies that, we hate CRT. Well, sir, could you explain what CRT is? Well, I don't really want to get into that, because I don't really want to know, but I don't like it. I don't like it. That's what it is. You're being told how to think. You're being told what to like or not like. You're just not being told truthfully what it's all about. So you don't have a legitimate chance to know what something is and to determine whether you might like it or not. Everybody has a fair chance to be given a chance to use their own mind to say whether I want to like this or not. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me how I should think. Let my mind think that, because with knowledge equals growth. Teach something, learn something, like you always talk about. Teach one.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of which, the debate on history is getting heated in government halls. Let's take a look before we close out for the night.
Do you support the teaching of all history, multicultural history in every American school? You support that?
Right. We need to have a robust and full history standards and lessons and curriculum, so that all topics are addressed.
So do you support the teaching of queer and gender studies in public schools?
I'm not sure what you mean when you say queer and gender studies. That doesn't sound like something that would be an elementary level, for example, appropriate topic.
What about middle school and high school?
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're saying when you're saying queer and gender studies.
So I'm a former educator. I worked in education for 20 years. I was a middle school principal for 10 and a half years, and I had students who identified as gay or lesbian or queer, and it was very important for them to feel safe and comfortable and seen and heard and recognized in our school curriculum, and that helped them to have higher levels of self-esteem, self-worth, and it helped them to thrive academically in my school. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that. Do you support the teaching and supporting of queer and gender studies in schools?
I honestly am not familiar with a curriculum or a class that would be an appropriate class.
History, biology, anatomy and physiology, history. Like, add the nuance to United States history that is needed for full comprehension of United States history. Bring in the intersectionality of the history so that everything can fully be grasped. History is not cut and dry. I know that the method of the United States is to give children a date and have them memorize what they say this date represents. There's more nuance to that. There's more intersectionality to that. That's why so many women, especially women of color, are erased from history books, and those stories aren't taught. That's why there are so many women, when they go out to celebrate the birth date of Susan B. Anthony, don't understand why that is a white woman thing and a white woman thing alone. This is why so many people don't understand why Black women specifically, we call ourselves womanist and not feminist. Because they don't want to bring that nuance in there. Just like Ron DeSantis is fighting against queer theory being taught in African American history studies, but you wouldn't have a Pride, let alone a Pride Month, without queer Black women. So that is a part of the history. It's all intertwined. As my daddy would say, you don't live to yourself and you don't die to yourself.
I mean, you can't just talk about or say that we're going to, in passing, mention somebody who contributed something in history without talking about the whole picture. You can't talk about products without not talking about the inventors of products, because a lot of what you use, a lot of what's in your kitchen, your house, your whatever, were invented by people that were not white. And nobody talks about it unless you talk about it with someone of color, because it's not always taught. It's you're always learned about certain contributors in history, but you're not talked about how things in our everyday world have been influenced, how products you use, utensils, devices. I mean, there's so much out there. There's a wealth of information out there that isn't getting to the young minds and helping them grow because of their fear of all of a sudden everybody's going to feel a certain way, and we want to be able to dictate how your feelings are after you learn things in school. Well, if I'm somebody who loves history, I want to be told the whole picture. I want to go into this saying, okay, if I'm learning about the U.S., let's start here and end up here. Don't sugarcoat anything or water down anything in between. I'm expecting it not all to be good, because there's no history in the world that's always been good. But don't keep that from me. Don't tell me that there's a gap here or there's something here that's missing that we just think it would be better you not know. Well, that's like putting a rating on a movie and saying, well, we had to cut out we had to edit this movie because we thought you'd be offended by certain areas of the movie. Well, then it's not the full movie. I want to see the full movie. I don't want to see the edited version. I want the full movie. So,
And,
yeah, like I said, people are touting old Florida Ron as being the second coming. That's literally the playbook he's running with. He's just trying to say, well, I don't tweet as much, or I don't do this as much because that would have been Trump. Dude, you're still as nasty as can be.
And worse than Trump, because Trump will leave things as talking points, as empty promises. DeSantis's whole goal is everything that's in his mind he puts out. I'm wondering if he has a picture of Henry Ford in his office. Like, I really do. The level of racism that he has. But as always, check out the links in the description of this video. There is a blog post that gives you a listing. If you want to start your journey on learning more about the complete history of the United States, I do have that listing of people that you can study. And also because I was going to start it this Tuesday through Zoom, but a lot of people said due to time constraints and not really being able to make the 6 to 8 p.m., I'm just going to start next Tuesday and put it out here on YouTube. I will simulcast it just like this, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday. And the book that we're going to start with is The Black History of the White House. And if you've been in a book club with me before, you know I give a ton of background history. So even if you don't have the book yet, or you don't have the money to get the book, you can still come and get all of that history and get it flowing. The opportunities are out there. You have so much information at your fingertips. There's no reason for you to just believe somebody. And even the things and the factoids that I put out there for you, double check me. My feelings aren't gonna get hurt.
Yeah, I need to fact check your puppy.
Oh, heathen dog. Final thoughts on the night, Chris?
First of all, glad we're back. Glad we're back and rolling things. I know there's a lot of, like we talked about, the usual turmoil that's going on in the world. But when it comes to what's coming out of Florida, everybody needs to keep an eye on that. When it comes to news, I know there's a lot of people that have to really tune out some things at times. I fully understand. I do at times too. But Ron is a whole nother, threat to this our democracy, threat to our goals of going forward. And he's looking around at all these young white kids that are marching and rallying against what he's doing. And there's a lot around this country that are fearful that the next generation won't stand for what they stand for, and they're not of color. So, we see that with the three individuals that are in Florida that sued about the AP, African American Studies, and one of them was white. I did see the readout, and they had the three individuals on there, the three students, and they did talk a lot about, and even Reverend Al talked about those that are marching that are more and more and more and more white, and that's what they fear on the right.
Mm-hmm.
And we shouldn't have to point that out. That's the whole thing we're talking about. Woke has been made a negative thing, and it should be an American thing that we don't have to label.
Exactly.
So that's just my thing here is going forward with that, is keeping an eye on that. And if you don't read books, I'm sure you have access to the internet. You can always research things. You can always look things up. There's always, obviously you want to know the source, and you can look up the source. But the more that's going on, knowledge is powerful. And you have to have the right knowledge. You have to have the right information coming from the right source, because anybody could write a book and get it published. You have to know where it's coming from, because there's still a lot of wealth. And I know I grew up being, the son of somebody that loved history like my father, and he loved all history. He was one that taught me that history is powerful, and it isn't all pretty, but it's history. In order to know where we got, you have to know where we came from, because we didn't just get here. We didn't just have the things we have because they just magically invented themselves or became something of this, a staple of this country. There's more behind those stories, and it's interesting stuff. For those that love history, you know what I'm talking about. So keep learning, keep growing.
Now, definitely take the time to learn history. Those of y'all that may not have gotten my Henry Ford reference, go back and take a look at last night's episode.
There's more than the Model T.
Yeah, I go through a lot of history on any given night. But I just want to leave you all with this. The United States has potential to be the country that it markets itself to be. But the only way that's going to happen is if we get out of this Groundhog Day and we collectively face the tyrannical past that has led to the tyrannical present. But as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. And I'm going to leave y'all with a factoid regarding Mr. Frederick Douglass. See y'all tomorrow.
This is the most photographed American of the 19th century. There are more portraits of Frederick Douglass than any other American poet, activist, and even president from the 1800s. And if you look closely, they're almost all identical. He's always wearing a suit and tie, his eyes sternly focused. And this, why did Frederick Douglass almost never smile in his photos? Douglass was born into slavery, but he escaped in 1838 at the age of 20, which is 27 years before slavery was abolished in the U.S. And at the time, the dominant depiction of Black people was this. They were characterized as lazy, ignorant, and inferior, with minstrel shows becoming a widely popular form of entertainment. This was also around the time photography started becoming more accessible and popular, due to a switch from printing images on metal to paper. Douglas saw this as an opportunity. Every portrait Douglas took from the time of his earliest known photograph in 1841 until his death toward the end of the century was extremely deliberate. Look at these two different portraits. They were taken 24 years apart. Notice any similarities? He sternly looks away from the camera with his brow furrowed, dressed in a suit and tie, positioned in front of simple, dark-colored backgrounds with no props, keeping the focus on his face, or as he called it, the face of the fugitive slave, his hair uncovered, and again, no smile. Which brings us back to, why didn't Frederick Douglass smile? Well, in his words, he never wanted to look like a happy, amiable fugitive slave. Instead, he chose a confident and assertive pose that defied the rules of traditional posing, conveying a strong and powerful statement that would support his fight to eradicate racism and slavery. See, photography to Douglas and many Black Americans was a way to combat racist and inaccurate depictions of Black people. Douglas understood the importance of controlling and owning one's image, going as far as to hand out his portraits, often including them with letters he sent off. He intentionally chose poses and settings that highlighted dignity, achievement, and authority, all of which were denied to many like him who had been enslaved. The confidence he exuded in these portraits even made some question if he was ever enslaved. You can also see Douglas's portraits set a standard for Black men on how to pose in a dignified manner in the photographs of other notable Black thinkers, activists, and even the Black president who followed him. From Frederick Douglass and the abolitionist movement to the anti-lynching campaign, the civil rights movement, and Black Lives Matter, photography and the camera have indeed been employed as instruments of rebellion.